Jarchomp Collectibles. Welcome back to the channel. I am Frannie. This is Jake.
Hi, Frannie. I'm Jake.
We're here to answer your questions, specifically our member questions that we asked for hitting 75K. So, you ready?
Let's dive in.
To start, let's just see, how are you doing?
I'm doing so good. It has been a really busy first quarter of the year. We had some big goals to achieve this quarter. Not only like the number of shows we wanted to go to, but also from the socials standpoint, we wanted to increase in subscribers and followers and things like that. Yeah. And as far as like the numbers are concerned, we're well past where we thought we would be.
Yeah.
Which is super exciting. Also a little bit daunting. Because we want to build this community, but also be able to deliver good content to a community of that size. So there's some pressure, but we're having fun.
Yeah, there's been some you could call them early mornings because they were past late nights, trying to get the CollectCon video out within, 5 days of the show?
Yeah, well, I got home Monday night, and we put out the podcast with the Bulbasaur.
Yeah, I
Tuesday.
edited that Monday night when you got home.
Right, after I had driven 9-10 hours or so. You just immediately got that pumping and uploaded it, which left us basically like some of Tuesday and then Wednesday and Thursday to do that entire first video of the Collecticon vendor POV. Yeah. Which meant we were up till 4 a.m.
I think it was 4 a.m.
Friday morning.
Yes.
So, very proud of you. Great work.
Yeah, and then you had a show Saturday and Sunday here locally, which you did by yourself.
Yep, went to a small show here in the Salt Lake City area. And obviously, I've been doing shows in this area for much longer than any of the shows out of town or out of state. So lots of friendly faces, lots of familiar vendors, people who have bought from me and then kind of turned into vendors, which is really cool to see. So the scene is growing, but that doesn't mean it wasn't a weekend of work. Yeah. And so
you were tired. Yeah. And one other thing is Jake is helping his friend train for a fight, and they are working out very intensely in the garage gym 3 days a week at least. So
the programming is really intense. But it's also good to not only be doing Pokemon stuff. You know, I think it's good to have a balance.
Yeah, it's been helpful for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could say he's been bulking.
We're bulking, yeah.
It's bulking season for Jake.
I'm almost the heaviest I've ever been. So if I'm looking a little bit, let's call it thick on this podcast, you know why.
Thickums. All right, so let's get into our member questions. Mm-hmm. First one. Where did you come up with the name Jarchomp?
Yeah. Jarchomp. So I have 3 siblings and 2 brothers, 1 sister. And we've always liked to play games together, specifically video games.
What are you playing?
We all live in different states, and so, we have a history of playing online games and just kind of the older school ones. We like to play Halo 3 and... sometimes we'll play GTA 5 and just kind of run around and laugh and talk crap and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So because we play the games together, sometimes we're in lobbies where we're playing multiplayer games online, and we want to have kind of a name that's similar. A team name, and our last name is Jarman. And so we all like Pokemon, and so we all kind of chose a Pokemon that would, like, if you mesh the name Jarman with the Pokemon's name, then it would sound good. And so my older brother is Charmander. I'm Jarchomp. Little brother is Jarvitar. And then my little sister is Jaraptor. Mm-hmm. So there's all 4 of us.
Yeah, that's very cute. I don't think it was like a discussion that you guys had. I think Dylan, Jarmander, started it.
Yes.
And then, as younger siblings do, everybody kind of caught on, and then all of a sudden it was just, and this was back in like 2018, 2019.
Well, I mean, Dylan's been being called Jarmander by friends and peers and stuff for decades now. Yeah. And then I got called that as well when I was in middle school and high school, and then just kind of caught on, and we made our own names for the gamer tags.
Cute.
Just nerdy stuff.
Okay, moving into a personal question that one of our members had.
Wow.
When did we meet and how did we meet?
Yeah. Maybe I'll kick that off to you. That's a fun one for you to chat about.
We met in 2016, February.
February 5th.
February 5th. It was very cold, snowy day. I had been skiing with a friend.
Another guy.
With a friend, and we were both in college. Like, Jake and I are both in college at this point. And my friends invited me to, like, a dance party, because at the school that we went to, dance parties were very prevalent.
Yep.
And I was, like, really tired from skiing, but I went, and Jake was there. And he came up to me and said, I had sweet kicks.
Yeah. She had some nice Converse All-Stars on, and I needed a little bit of an icebreaker, so why not, hey.
Yeah.
I like your kicks.
Yeah, and Jake was fresh back from his 2-year mission to Siberia.
Yes.
So he was very proper in a button-down shirt with a sweater over the top.
Yes.
And I was like, this guy is very preppy. He looks like he's from the East Coast. But no, he's from NorCal.
Nope, I was just all missionaried out and extremely conservative in my dress.
Yes. You never wore T-shirts.
No, I think it was you convinced me to start wearing T-shirts again.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. But,
which you would not believe now, because he has quite the T-shirt game.
Yes, yeah, which we'll speak about.
Yeah.
Money, man, like goes on. Hopeful. Yes, I am hopeful for today.
So that's how we met. We met at the dance party, and I think I got you to go on an official first date maybe a week later or so.
Yeah.
We went to get some ice cream at Cold Stone. And then on our second date, I already told her that I wasn't interested in dating other people. So I was full on.
Yeah, he was full on.
Yeah, which, sometimes you come on a little strong, and there's rocky moments, but it worked out, and eventually I talked you into being my girlfriend, and then I proposed, and then we got married.
Yeah, that same year.
Really fast.
Within 6 months.
Yes.
That's a different story.
Yes.
Let's refer to some business questions. Do you look at trends of any specific cards to try to stay stocked up, or just go on your own intuition and buy what you think will do well?
This is a huge question, right? It is, yeah. This is about inventory management. This is a question about trying to predict what the marketplace of collectors is going to want in the future.
Huge.
Yeah, it's about predicting whether or not the cards that people will want are going to increase and decrease in value. That's a lot of data to try to analyze. So the answer is not really.
Yeah.
For the most part, I have a pretty clear eye of what the hobby in general is wanting to collect, right? Yeah. I think most of us kind of understand when a new set comes out, there's a couple of cards that most people want. If you're looking at Twilight Masquerade, you're probably going to want the Greninja or the Eevee.
Yeah.
Like, that's more likely what's going to happen. And so I'm looking, when somebody hands me their trade binder or hands me a stack of cards that they want to trade in, I'm looking at, okay, what are some of the more interesting characters? What are the more interesting cards and rarities? And then also I can depend a little bit on some of the sales I've done in the past. So if I know for a fact that the Pikachu from Crown Zenith I've sold, 150 different times out of our binder, then I know that that's a pretty safe one to take in for trade credit.
Yeah. Yeah, and it just also starts to come with experience. Yeah. And I think it is just going to shows and seeing what people are picking up. Yeah. And just noticing that.
One more thing I want to add on this question is that, it's kind of a question born out of, should I try to be kind of a card picker? Or if we're talking in the world of finance, like a stock picker, should I try to day trade? Should I try to do tons of analysis and graphs and pick what works best? And at least from a business standpoint, that the return on investment of my time to do that kind of research just really isn't there. Yeah. So I'm much more general than I am specific. And I also know that there's a lot of different collectors out there.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to point out.
Yeah, and I never know what somebody's gonna want. I have a rough idea of what in general is gonna be popular. Yeah. But I've had people come up to my table and say, hey, I'm a Quaxley collector, or I'm a Lowland Meowth Berserker collector, and it's like, how is that your favorite Pokemon? I don't even know, but I know that I have a few of those in my binder.
Yeah.
So I want to be ready for everything.
No judgment.
Yeah, no judgment. Yeah. Everyone likes their own thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I like that. What is your favorite experience or memory so far with the business?
Wow. This is a hard question, right? Because there's been so many cool cards that I've been able to see. Some that I've kind of taken off the table and put in my do not sell pile, which I'm sure will show an update to our PC very soon in video form.
That's the plan.
But I'm just going to go with kind of maybe a near-term bias, something that happened to us in the last couple of months. And many of you already know this and have seen this, but maybe don't know the end of the story. But I had a BGS 9.5 Mewtwo Gold Star. It kind of sat in our case for a few months, and no one really expressed a lot of interest in it because it's an expensive card, but it was a 9.5.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, I cracked it out of the case, risked it, sent it to PSA. They gave me a 10. And then I couldn't decide if I wanted to sell it or not because, it's so exciting. One of my favorite sets.
Yeah.
Beautiful card, modern certification number. It was just a grail of a card.
Yeah.
But I also decided that specifically Mewtwo is a character that I think is cool, but is not one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And I also have specific collection goals for me. And so I decided to sell that Mewtwo, and the exact right deal just came up to my table while I was in Collecticon in LA.
Yeah.
Someone traded in 2 of the Delta Species cards that I needed for me, along with $7,300 in cash.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, that's about as good of an offer as I'm going to get, I think, in person. And so we took it. And so that was really exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, it worked out. Yeah. This question was also for me.
Okay.
There are some questions there for
Please,
both of us.
yeah.
My favorite memory or experience, I think it's kind of the early days, even before we were filming content, when we were starting to travel out of state, especially Pasadena, like that first Pasadena show that we went to. We kind of made it just a fun weekend.
Yeah.
And it was like we were staying kind of far away from the convention center and trying to find, like, you guys will, if you try vending and especially go to a new convention, trying to find out where to load in your stuff, your display cases, and trying to find the right location to do that is always just a task.
In a city you've never been to before.
Yes.
It can be stressful. There's a lot of things you have to figure out.
Yeah. So just overcoming all of that, and then, seeing Jake in his flow state and just crushing, I think that was really one of the first shows I'd been there like the whole time.
Yeah.
And then we got to go and just do some fun stuff. Like we went to Din Tai Fung, and we went to the Hutchinson Botanical Gardens around there. Is that what it's called? Huntington.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was just like a lovely little weekend. And I think that was kind of where the idea that this could be something started to percolate.
Yeah.
So
we kind of found out that we liked traveling together, and that we could do the shows together, and then we could find fun things in the cities that we were visiting that would make the trip worthwhile, not only for me but also for you.
Yeah, and I think one other thing is that trip, our tables were next to a family who was selling sports cards, and the guy was from Nebraska, which was very exciting for me because, we are few and far between, especially far away from home. And
Go Big Red.
Yes. And so I think like meeting other vendors, especially people right by us, like I've made some amazing friends, like people that I talk to a lot of the time from people we've just been next to when we're vending. And that's been like a cool memory for me.
Yeah, shout out to everyone that we've ever vended next to. It's almost always been a really positive experience. And like you said, made some friends. People that now we're excited to see when we go to these cities.
Oh yeah, that's like something we look forward to when we're going to see them. Let's move on to, what is your long-term investments in the Pokemon hobby?
Wow. Man. Well, let me just speak generally, and then I'll speak specifically.
Yeah.
Long-term investment in the hobby in general is just to continue to do it, right?
Yeah.
And I think that some people forget that one of the primary determining factors for whether or not you're going to quote unquote succeed in the Pokemon hobby, which I think a lot of people kind of define success as building a collection of significant value without having to pay dollar for dollar everything that you got, right? Because I feel like anyone could get a $100 collection if they spent $100 on something.
Yeah.
Not everyone could spend maybe $1,500 and end up with $5,000 worth of product over the course of a year or so, right? That entails like some work, and it entails finding good deals and making sales and selling things you don't need so that you can keep the things that you want for very low cost of entry.
Yeah.
Anyways, that takes time to accumulate that kind of inventory or that kind of collection.
Yeah.
And so one investment I'm making is just to continue to be in the hobby.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm a believer that as I'm in the right places at the right time, cool things are going to happen. Opportunities are going to come across the table, or in person at a trade night, or at a convention, or through the internet, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
As long as I'm present and and prepared, that's when luck will strike, right?
Yeah.
Now, speaking specifically, we'll probably make a video about this in the future, but I'm a huge believer in the Evolving Skies set. Now, that may seem cliche, like everyone knows that Evolving Skies is an incredible set, but it was a big one for me. There's some specific cards in there that I absolutely love, but then on top of that, I can recognize that there's other cards that maybe aren't my favorite, but they're important kind of mainstays in the hobby.
Yeah.
And so I've got a master set of Evolving Skies. I've got almost every product that they put out, all the ETBs and tons of sleeved booster packs. And I've got a sealed case of booster boxes, and I think like 10 additional loose booster boxes.
Yeah.
It's an investment that as opportunities have come across the table or locally or whatever, I've always jumped on because I feel like that's a set that is going to be... it's going to go down in history as one of the best ever made by Pokemon.
Wow.
So, you heard it here first, folks.
So not Evolving Cries to you?
Well, I mean, maybe ripping it, opening it right now at this price point doesn't make sense.
No.
But, back in the day, when you could get it at retail or cheaper, dang, that was fun to open.
Yeah. I think that is a good segue into this next question.
Okay.
My wife and I are currently expecting. Congratulations.
Congrats.
I really want to keep collecting without using my own money. Would love to have Pokemon pay for itself. However, it's difficult for me in today's market with nobody really selling under 90% and vendors and card shops buying at 80% or less. Any advice?
I'm going to challenge some of these statements. I think that you are able to find deals on collections for less than 90%,
Okay.
but it does take more work. And this is maybe the overall response I'm going to have, which is in order to continue to collect and build a collection without spending very much money,
Yeah.
you're going to need to spend time.
Yeah.
Right? It's one or the other. More often than not, really exciting collections don't just fall into your lap. Sometimes they do randomly, and it's really exciting. But if you're trying to consistently build your collection or build your inventory, if you're looking to sell, you're going to need to spend time looking in all sorts of different places.
Yeah.
You're probably going to need to go to some in-person events. You're probably going to want to network and meet people at your local card store.
Yeah.
You're probably going to want to talk to the owners of your local card store and see if there's things that they have that they don't need or that they need that you can help acquire because they're stuck behind the desk all day.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to make connections, either in person or virtually. Facebook Marketplace, again, I know it's cliche to say, but every now and again, you strike gold on there and you find a binder for much less than it's worth once you piece it out and sell some of it.
Yeah.
But we're talking about an investment of time. And so if you love the hobby, then that shouldn't feel like a big weight. But then again, we're talking about someone who's expecting a new baby.
Yeah.
And
they don't necessarily have all the time in the world.
Yeah. And there's going to be a period of time where the amount of time that you have to invest in the hobby declines, and then maybe you need to reimagine your schedule and get things sorted out, and then you can ramp that back up. I mean, that's happened to us, right?
Yeah.
With other things. Like when we went full time in the Pokemon hobby, and we're really kind of getting our feet wet with, okay, what are we doing for business, and how are we going to make sure we have enough money to live and to eat?
Yeah.
I stopped going to the MMA gym.
Yeah.
And I recognized it was because if I was going to try to really dive in and figure out what I needed to figure out.
Yeah.
I needed to pull back from some things. And then as the business kind of normalized and we realized, okay, this is a schedule we can keep, I was able to invest some time into that other hobby.
Yeah.
And that's going to ebb and flow, and it's going to require communication with your partner and to align your priorities. But I'm not going to sugarcoat it. In order to not spend a lot of money in this hobby, you have to at least spend time.
Yeah, the trade-off.
Yep.
I think that's a good segue into this other question around kind of couples in the hobbies.
Which, for all you couples out there collecting together, shout out. Love you guys. We're with you. So fun that we can connect on that.
Yeah. The question is, you guys as a couple have inspired me and my wife to help her pursue her social media and YouTube channels. So kind of related in the social media side. How do you both balance the need to be productive and do/talk business when it comes to growing a successful channel and pushing out content, all while also making sure it doesn't get in the way of each other?
If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Well,
right? So I think and this is something that you and I still, aren't perfect on by any stretch of the imagination, but try time blocking. If there's going to be days, periods of your day where you're at work and you're separated, then you're at work and you're separated. And then when you come together and you're working together on the business venture, time block that out. Okay, from 5 to 8, this
is what we're doing.
This is what we're doing. We're talking business. We're working together. We're solving problems. We're making to-do lists. We're knocking things out.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, from 8 to 9, 9:30 or whatever, we're going to wind down. We're going to watch a show.
Yeah.
We're going to have that reconnection time as husband and wife. But if you don't intentionally, make sure that you get in one mode or the other, there's going to be hurt feelings and misunderstandings. And, one of you is going to be in all business mode and the other one's going to be in relax mode. And you're going to say something kind of businessy and they're going to be like, whatever. It's like, oh, I said that to you kind of as a business partner, not as, soft husband kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, it's going to take communication, planning, and probably some apologies.
Yeah. And it's just experience. I think so many of these questions, you just have to experience it for yourself, because I think we had all of these questions before we started.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really just digging in and just noticing like, oh, we've been pretty businessy lately. Let's like go out on a date and try not to talk about work and, focus on other things. So I think it's all just experience is definitely going to help. And just making sure that you're touching base and communicating about what's going on.
And there's warning signs that will kind of tip you off that it's time to, pull back or time to move forward, right? Like if you're not making much traction in the business for, periods of weeks, maybe you need to ratchet up the heat and be a bit more intense with time that you're allotting to the business.
Yeah.
If it's the inverse and you're feeling like, oh, I'm just kind of irritable when I'm around my spouse and this relationship is very transactional from like, what are you doing for the business today? And if you're not doing that, then I'm kind of mad at you. Maybe we need to take a step back, go on a date, hold hands, just have some quiet time where you're not trying to scheme for world domination.
Pokemon domination.
That's right.
All right. When you both started vending, what were the biggest challenges y'all faced? And this person says, I'm looking to get into vending, and my biggest challenge right now is figuring out how much product to bring to a show.
Well, let me answer that second part because it's a very simple question. When you start out vending, you should just bring all the inventory out of your personal collection that you're willing to sell.
Yeah. And I was, because I had, read these questions before, I was like, if you sell out, that's really exciting.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, you can bring too much in the sense that you'll just be carrying more stuff, but I don't think that's really the concern. I think it's more if you sell out. And honestly, the organizers of card shows are very understanding. If you do sell out, then you just get to walk around the card show and look at other stuff.
Plus, you end up with a pocket full of cash, and maybe you can work some deals with all that money. But I would say that more often than not, this question is more born of from the place of, I kind of want to keep all these things that I have, and I don't really want to sell them. So how much should I take if I also want to be a vendor? And the answer to that is, why don't you first get really specific about what you want in your personal collection?
Yeah.
Make plans for the binder or the master set or the graded card collection that you are working on.
Yeah.
And then be okay with the things that don't fall into that category moving to a new home, and selling them at in person or online or whatever, so that you can build, get some capital to continue the venture that you're working on.
Yeah.
But if you just have a bunch of things and you just really like them still, maybe you just need to continue collecting. And you don't need to get anxious about selling something if you still really like it.
Yeah, no, that's a super good point. I think that goes along with what were both of your collections looking like when you got back into collecting seriously as an adult? Was it modest at first or just massive FOMO and collecting everything like myself?
Man, great question. Neither of us come from a place or a family where we had a whole bunch of extra income for frivolous things like, cards and games and whatever, right? It was pretty business growing up, where we were. And so when we first started out, and specifically me, I had nothing, right? I think I somehow talked my little sibling into giving me back my Game Boy SP and my copy of Pokemon Leaf Green when I was like 25 or 6 or something. And that was one of the first steps in being like, okay, like I still like this stuff that I liked as a kid.
Yeah.
And then when I got back into cards, it was also very minimal. I think at first it was like 2 Elite Trainer boxes that I found randomly at a Target, and went home and kind of, broached the subject of, hey, babe, like I spent $90 on this and it's kind of fun and we make, okay money now, so I'm going to open them. Little did you know that, that was going to end up becoming this huge thing. And I didn't know it then either, but I did feel that excitement that they mentioned of like, oh, I just want to get everything in sight. But, I'd like to think of myself as someone who, even though I've made poor decisions in spending money in the hobby when it was, early on, in general, the dominating trait from a financial standpoint was that I wanted to make sure we were never in financial trouble, and always had enough to, pay our rent and have our cars in good shape and have, good food and be able to travel if we want and have insurance and all those things that should be first.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went big at certain points.
Yes.
Bought lots of boxes and single cards and whatever, and spent more than I really cared to really observe. I think we've all been through something like that in some sort of hobby.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that's something that the hobby can do to you. It's exciting. There's FOMO.
Yeah.
But you do have to, once you kind of come to, after you've had a little bout of FOMO, it's good to make a plan and to get specific on what you want to do.
Love that.
Yeah.
Great advice. That goes along. Another question was kind of what was our childhood experience with Pokemon, and I think you've gone into that in great detail. I have not gone into that. My childhood experience was my sister and I were gifted Pikachu walkie-talkies. Because during the summer, we were working on the ranch with our parents, and one part of that was during the, cattle breeding season, and so we were out there checking every day for, this is too in-depth, which cows were in heat, and, you're just riding around the pasture on your horses 3 times a day, for however many hours, probably 12 hours or something like that. And my sister would go with my mom or dad, I would go with the other parent, and we would just separate, but we still wanted to, be sisters and hang out with the person that was around our age. So somebody gifted us those walkie-talkies, and we would talk on our horses from across the pasture.
From Pikachu to Pikachu.
Yeah. And that was truthfully, I was kind of what is this little creature?
What even is this yellow mouse?
What is this? So that was kind of that was really my whole experience, because growing up in a very rural place in Nebraska, there was nobody at my school that had Pokemon, because, there were 60 kids in my whole school, high school. I don't think anybody had Pokemon.
Yeah, not really much in the way of cards, games, anime, none of it.
No, I did play Nancy Drew, as a child. I would get that for every Christmas, a Nancy Drew mystery. And Zoo Tycoon.
Oh, Franny's foray into video games.
All right, next question. If you two were in charge of a future show, could be a vacation spot anywhere in the world, where would that be?
Like we're the show organizers?
Yeah, and we get to pick wherever it is.
Oh my goodness. I don't even know. My practical mind just automatically goes towards like, okay, what's a place that I like have been to before, and there's like an event center that I know about, and there's enough parking and like all
That's
those
fair.
boring things. I don't know. It seems like somewhere in Northern California makes the most sense around where I grew up. You know,
Yeah.
I know more people out there. I have an idea of where like the show might be. But I guess this question might also be asking, is there a place in the world that you could go to a show to vend that's also a vacation for you? Is that kind of, I don't know. If that's the question, we've both talked about doing the London card show before.
Yeah.
Which I think would be really cool. There's some good content creators out there, of course. But there's
The Hawaii PopCon.
yeah, we're interested in Hawaii PopCon, London card show. I think those are kind of the top two out of the country places that I'd like to try.
Well, Hawaii is in the country.
Well, yes, I guess out of mainland U.S.
There we go. Any chance of a JARCHOMP online store or eBay?
Absolutely. And we are talking about ideas for this, names, URLs even, and how we would want it to operate. You know, one of the reasons that we do in-person shows is because the way that I like to sell cards is in person.
Yeah.
I like to be around people. The idea of just kind of listing things on a website and having them sell out and then shipping isn't really exhilarating for me.
Yeah.
But I recognize that not everyone can do a deal with us in person. And there are times where it makes sense for us to sell online because we have more than we can even display in our cases.
Yeah.
We're getting to that point now.
Definitely.
So we've talked about doing maybe a limited drops kind of website, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I think it will come about in the nearish future.
Yeah. I think within the next year, I think that would be very possible.
Yeah. I think going along with this, as you guys grow, do you have any plans to start expanding to further shows out east?
Oh, the answer is absolutely yes. We've already signed up for the card party that's going to be in Florida. We're doing our best to get tables for the collecticons all over the country.
Yeah.
Something that maybe you guys don't know is that getting a table to sell a collecticon is extremely competitive. It's hard to do. They sell out almost instantly.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we're always logged in right at the right time to try to get the table drop and sign up for these shows, but it doesn't always work out.
Yeah. And we can't know until they drop. You know, we can't tell you, oh, yeah, we're going to be at the Cleveland CollectCon because it's not even dropping until, I think, 6 weeks before the show.
Yeah.
So there's no way for us to even know if we're able to get a table.
Yeah.
With that said, we did get tables for Houston Collecticon.
Yep, we'll be at Houston. We'd love to be at New Jersey and I think in Charlotte or
there's one in Charlotte.
Yeah, other places out east we'd love to go to. So the plan right now is hopefully yes.
Yeah.
We're doing our best too, and I think it's going to work out.
What is the most difficult part of vending for you guys?
I'll speak for my piece, and then maybe you can speak to yours. There's two things that can be difficult. Number one is, sometimes the interactions with patrons are difficult, right? There's some expectation around their ability to get some sort of large discount or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe they're used to buying cards at a percentage of market price, but you know, now that we're a business, it's important for us to be able to sell cards in a way that makes it so that we can live and we can afford all the expenses of traveling all over the country and all those other things that come up. And so sometimes deals just don't work out. And I never have hurt feelings about deals not working out because I know that, they're going to be able to find the cards that they want from someone else.
Yeah.
But sometimes those kind of initial relationships or first impressions can be damaging to someone.
Yeah.
And so that can be tough because I do want to make it a good experience for as many people as possible. but it doesn't always work out like that.
Yeah.
Then number two, a difficult part about vending is that it is work.
Yeah.
We work all week long to prepare inventory and make content and all of those things. And then when most people have their weekend off, we travel, sometimes driving 5-10 hours the day before. And then we work from like 6 a.m. until like 8 p.m. Vending at the show. So set up, vending, tear down. And then you might not know this, but if it's like a 2-day show, the end of day one, we hopefully have a chance to get some dinner. But then I stay up probably an additional 4 hours from 8 until maybe midnight or later pricing cards to prepare for day two.
Yeah.
So we're talking about work, and I think that's maybe what some people miss is that, oh, well, you're vending, and so you just have all these amazing benefits of people just giving you cards, and like there are benefits, there are pros, there's also cons.
Yeah, I even fell into that trap a little bit. I was watching the LA CutCon footage when I was editing, and I was like, this looks so fun, and there's people asking where I am, and I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't I go? And Jake had to bring me back down to earth and was like, it was so hard. Him and Bulbasaur filmed that podcast at 11 p.m.
In a
random closet.
Yep.
And that was after just a absolutely full day. I will say, Front Row Card Show, I adore you because you go from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. We've been to some shows that are 9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Craziness.
And you can't walk away from your table and leave it alone. Like you have valuable inventory there. And if there's only two of us, then one person might take a break. The other person's at the table. That's not a very extensive break for anyone. So I will say that he brought me back down to earth, and it was a very intense weekend. And so that goes into what's kind of hard for me is I'm such a homebody. I love being home with my cat. And these shows, while I love meeting everyone, it's also like I just take on everyone's energy, and I want everyone to be having like such a good experience, and that can be hard. Like Jake said, this is a business at the end of the day, and sometimes we might disappoint people, which I personally don't do. If someone comes up to the table and I'm there alone and they ask me if I can do $50 on a $70 card, I'll probably say yes.
Infinite money glitch, guys.
Yeah. So yeah, if you ever see me alone, that's the time to strike. But so I don't want to disappoint anybody, but it's getting a little bit harder not to, with just the number of people that are coming up and, the number of deals that are being done. And I have less of a business mindset about it and more of a like people mindset about it. Just want everyone to be having a good time. And I'm an introvert, and so I'm good at like the one-on-one conversations. But if there's, like 6 people that are at the table that I'm trying to host and, help out, like that's just a completely different experience. So just like the number of people at the card shows, like I said, my high school growing up was 60 people.
Yeah.
And like my county was 500 people, and I knew pretty much everyone. So going to these shows and getting exposed to like more people than that in the first half of the first day is pretty overwhelming for me.
Yeah.
So, but I love connecting with all of you like through comments. So thank you for your nice comments, and no thank you for your bad comments. Before the start of each event, do you all go vendor to vendor to find what you all can buy for yourself for your own collection, or to sell at your own table before any of the crowd gets in? Do the other vendors give you first dibs on buying from their inventory, especially if it's a card you have been seeking?
The answer is sometimes you have a chance to get set up and then maybe do a quick lap before people come in the door. But more often than not, at least for us now, the answer is no. We're setting up, and then we're immediately setting up the camera, doing some sort of an intro of the booth that we put on the video for the first day of a new show.
Yeah.
And there's just so many things to remember, right? You have to not only get your camera equipment ready and all that, but you have to have all your stuff priced, You have to, get your change box ready. Like, there's so many things to remember.
Well, and something that I've been noticing lately is we'll be setting up and other vendors will come up.
Yes.
And so you're mostly doing deals with other vendors coming to your table before the show even starts, so you can't leave your table.
Yeah.
That's been happening. Like, you guys have probably seen it in some footage where it's just vendors at the beginning and then other people will trickle in, but...
Yeah. So, if some vendors get set up really early and so they, go make those laps, but, we're usually not doing that.
Yeah.
And then the answer to the second part of the question is, are other vendors going to give you first dibs at their stuff? Technically, yes. If you walk over and there's no one in the room, like, you could make a vendor an offer before anyone else does. But just remember that we're talking about the first minute of a 2-day-long card show where that vendor might be pretty confident that there's going to be a chance that a patron comes in and makes a full price offer on their items.
Yeah.
So most vendors are not going to be selling well below market at the beginning of a show because they haven't even given themselves a chance to sell that item at full price yet.
Yeah, I will say that there's people who know that you're collecting the PSA 10 Delta species.
Yep.
And they'll give you priority on that. They'll let you know, hey, I have this, like, come, stop by the table and check it out.
Yes.
Like, there's definitely people who do that, which, shout out to you guys. That's very nice.
Yeah, not only that, but there's been, I think 2 of these slabs that I have up on this wall have been gifted to me, which is just really cool.
Yeah, I've been, like, pleasantly surprised by how nice all of you are in gifting things. Like, my heart is like, how do I repay you?
Yes.
I immediately need to repay you in some way. Like, what could I hand back to you?
Yeah, both of us are like conscientious people who have a hard time with receiving gifts.
Yeah.
Because we're very grateful, but it's also like, oh my gosh, like, I need to reciprocate right now.
Yeah, immediately, which kind of decreases the, the impact of you giving the gift. So thank you. If you've ever given us anything, like, treasure it. It's on my desk right now. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and we've gotten fan art, and we've gotten stuff that people have custom created and sent to us in the mail, and obviously Pokemon cards have been gifted, and people give us stuff to give out to the kids, and gosh, it's been very, very heartening to see all the generosity.
Also, you don't need to give us anything.
No, no pressure, please.
Yeah, you just saying hi is, like, totally enough for us, so please don't think that you need to give us anything. Let's move on to our last question.
Okay.
And this is a little bit of a fun one.
Oh, I'm excited.
If there was a Fortnite-style battle royale between all vendor POV YouTubers, how long would it take for you and Ricky to be the final 2?
Well, Fortnite style insinuates weapons, right? Because, like, I'm pretty sure there's guns and stuff in Fortnite. I've never really played, but... So if it's weapons, who even knows? Anything could happen. That's why it's a battle royale. It's exciting.
There you go.
But if it's just hand to hand, no weapons, man, it might be quick. And the thing about Ricky, and shout out to you, Oyama's Trading Post, but he's very calculated, and so I'm sure he would make a plan for domination, take out all the competitors, and then he and I would get to have an exciting death match at the end.
Yeah, that would be very exciting.
Gosh.
Thank you so much. For this little interview. I'm sorry if we didn't get to your question, but we will be doing more of these. And, one more thing. One other question I remembered. Will we be doing any live streams? Which I think is relevant to, asking questions, because people could ask more questions from that.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I just want to, plan the right context, right? Is it going to be live streaming just chatting? Is it going to be streaming with showing off some inventory or opening packs or whatever? As you guys know, like, whenever we do something new, we want it to be well thought out and be successful and be a good product and experience for all of you guys. So the answer is yes, hopefully very soon. Right now, our show schedule is just extremely busy. It's like 7 out of 8 weekends across March and April. We have shows that are either in town or out of state.
Yeah, and I think May is also 3 shows.
Yeah. So we're really on the campaign trail, so to speak. But yes, we will do and want to do some live streams for you guys.
Yeah, and let us know what kind of live stream that you want from us. I've been researching what are those called? Rippin' ships?
Ripping ships.
I've been researching that lately.
Franny's not about it.
I don't know if I'm about it. So let us know your thoughts on rippin' ships. I don't know if you guys have seen Lucky J. He's a Pokemon YouTuber that's starting to pump out some content.
Shout out Lucky J.
Yeah.
Great videos, bro.
I love British accents.
Or should I say brov?
Yes.
Shout out, brov.
Anyway, he did a great video on rippin' ships, and it made me question ever doing it. So please let us know your thoughts. If you just would like a casual live, maybe I'll convince Jake that it doesn't need to be perfect, and we can just jump in.
I guess.
You're usually good at that. I'm usually the wait until it's perfect person.
Yeah, that's true.
Which, by the way, shout out our new mics because somebody said it's embarrassing that you guys are holding those little magnet mics. And that just goes to show that you can begin without being perfect. You can begin without knowing all of the inventory questions and knowing exactly where to go at the show. Just try it out and see what happens. And if you make a mistake, that's just part of life. So.
That's just part of life. Just try things and you'll get the experience, and you'll take feedback from people who care about you, and hopefully ignore the feedback from people who don't care about you.
Yeah, sorry. I do read negative comments, and I shouldn't. There's been some sometimes.
Yeah, but we push through them because most of you guys are really sweet to us. Yeah. Thank you for all your support.
Yeah, thank you so much, and that's all for the Trumpcast today.
See you guys next time.
Bye.
Good job.
So good.
Crushed. One take wonder.